You ever have one of those days where you find yourself standing in the middle of your own life, blinking at the mess around you, thinking, is this real? Am I actually awake? Because let me tell you, a couple weeks back, I lived through the kind of episode you don't warn your enemies about, let alone your friends, where for 12 short minutes my life became a sitcom and a crime drama at the exact same time, starring me, the world's grumpiest welder, and Karen Whitfield, the self-declared queen of the HOA. It started with a smell, believe it or not. Not the kind I'm used to. The sharp tang of hot metal and grease, which honestly is better than any cologne if you ask me. Nope. This was something else. The unmistakable stench of entitlement, like someone had spritzed Chanel No. 5 over a pile of final notice letters and grocery store coupons. I pushed open the door to my workshop, my sanctuary, and there it was, a silver Lexus parked dead center under the lights, looking like a fat tick that had just gorged itself on the blood of working folks everywhere. Let's back up a second. My name's Jake. I built that workshop with my own two hands. Every inch of that space is mine, paid for sweat and bled in. I had just run out 12 minutes. I checked for some tungsten electrodes at Welder's World. Didn't even bother shutting the big roll-up all the way. My brother's project was waiting. I was supposed to be back before the radio even finished a single song. But somehow in that tiny window, Karen, president of the Homeowners Association, dictator of lawn gnome placement and general pain in the neck, had decided that my shop was the perfect spot to drop her luxury chariot. It wasn't just in my shop either. No, she'd wedged it at an angle that blocked both my welding rig and my main fabrication table. You had to admire the commitment. It was the Mona Lisa of parking jobs if the Mona Lisa was painted with passive-aggressive smugness. I walked a slow lap around her car, the box of electrodes still digging into my hand. The urge to key a big smiley face right into that shiny paint job was real, but that'd be playing her game. And I don't play by Karen's rules. See, anger is a tool, not a compass. You keep it on a short leash, use it when you need it, not when you want it. Of course, right on cue, my neighbor Luke poked his head in. Luke's the kind of guy who'd show up at a funeral with a birthday cake. He peers in, goes, "Whoa, Jake, you get a new car." "Man, my cousin's got one of those parked itself straight into a hedge." Hilarious. I could only laugh. "Not mine, Luke. It's the HOA Queen's." Luke's face twisted, remembering last week's incident. She fined me for harboring undesirable avian elements. I think she meant sparrows. That's Karen for you. She once threatened to write up a neighbor for painting his mailbox too cheerful a shade of yellow. Seriously. So I did the polite thing. I called her. No answer, just the sound of her clipped, icy voicemail. Didn't bother leaving a message. Those vanish into the void. I texted instead. "Director, your car is in my workshop. Please move it immediately." Read, seen, ignored. 10 minutes ticked by, then 20. She was 3 houses down inspecting someone's mailbox like it might explode. The Lexus, of course, remained. That's when I knew this wasn't an accident. This was a message. Your boundaries don't matter here. And that's the thing. Everyone's got a line. Karen just drove right over mine. I wrote a formal email, attached photos from every angle, CC'd the whole HOA board, and sat back. Luke was still fiddling with my plasma cutter, asking if it could make toast. "No, Luke, it can't make toast." He looked genuinely disappointed. 20 minutes later, Karen was still pacing the street, phone in hand, never even looking my way. It was the ultimate power move, her way of saying my problem was beneath her. That was it. The easy way out was over. Let me explain something. Before I became the neighborhood's resident welder, I was a Marine. 8 years in, learned a thing or two about structure, discipline, securing your perimeter. When I got out, I built my workshop so I'd have a piece of this chaotic world where I set the rules. That's where I put myself back together after bad days, where I made a new brace for my brother Mike after his accident. That place isn't just a building, it's my peace. And Karen, she's the polar opposite of peace. She turned our lakeside community into her personal fiefdom the day she moved in. The old HOA President Bill just organized potlucks. Karen drafted bylaws in her sleep and measured our lawns like she was prepping for the Olympics. Luke was her favorite target. She fined him for excessive lawn ornamentation. He paid her in pennies. Legend. But me, I read the rules before I even bought my house. When she tried to shut down my workshop noise at 4 p.m., I shut her down with a letter from my lawyer. She hated that. So this her Lexus in my shop was a shot across the bow. This was personal. That night Mike called. "How's the Henderson gate coming on hold?" I said. "Karen's parked in my shop." There was a pause. "Man, don't let her get under your skin. Don't do anything stupid." He knows my temper. But stupid wasn't my style. Calculated was more my speed. I sent a certified letter, final warning, 24 hours to move her car. Paid extra for the return receipt. As I watched the mailman Tom hand deliver it to her, I felt the old service habits kicking in, mission prep, anticipation planning. When the green card came back with her signature, I had all I needed. She couldn't deny a thing. All day the Lexus sat there. Karen paraded around, never even glancing at the shop. I was done playing checkers. Time for chess. If she wanted to treat my space like public property, I'd turn it into Fort Knox. Back in my shop, I welded 2 massive steel plates over the roll-up doors. The place became a vault. 4 industrial-grade bolts in the man door. Shut off all power except for a string of new security cameras, 1 in each corner, night vision streaming straight to my phone. When I was done, the shop wasn't a shop anymore. It was a tomb. Her Lexus was the only thing inside. Then I disappeared. Told everyone, including Luke, that I was off for a 10-day fishing trip, no cell service. Drove 2 towns over, checked into a cheap motel with high-speed Wi-Fi and a view of nothing. Set up command on the nightstand, coffee and camera feeds at the ready. Day 2, she made her move. Karen was on camera, peering through the window, rattling doors, kicking at them like a caged animal. She called a tow truck. The guy took 1 look at my welds and knocked out after an hour of trying. Next day, she called a locksmith. He got through the lock, felt pretty proud until he realized the door was bolted shut with steel rods thicker than his wrist. Sorry, buddy. Day 5, things got weird. That night, Karen snuck back, flashlight in hand, and started fishing through a gap she'd made in the vent under her car. She was after something hidden under a loose floor tile, something she'd stashed there, desperate, sweating, almost in tears when she couldn't reach it. That was when I realized this wasn't about parking. This was about a secret. I called Mike. "You seeing this?" He watched the video and said, "Jake, this is out of your league. Don't touch it. Don't even go back. Let someone official deal with it." He was right. Suddenly it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the whole neighborhood. Whatever she'd stashed, it had her panicked. If she was dirty, maybe I could bring her whole rotten empire down. So I made some calls to a buddy who's a forensic accountant and to another guy at the county inspection office. Didn't name names, just asked hypotheticals. What's the smoking gun for HOA embezzlement? What triggers an emergency inspection? Got my answers. Now I needed Karen to make a mistake big enough to get the authorities in on her dime. With a burner email, I tipped off the entire HOA. Ask Karen what she hid in Jake's workshop. Ask about the Henderson construction invoices. The rumor bomb hit the neighborhood like a tornado. Luke texted me in all caps, "Bureau, Karen is losing it." That night she brought in the big guns, literally. 2 goons in a white van paid in cash. They tried everything, grinders, sledgehammers, even chained the door to the van and gunned it. They managed a hole the size of a dinner plate before their tools broke and they bailed. The entire neighborhood watched from their porches. Karen was left standing alone, wild-eyed. She called someone, I guess the fire department. 10 minutes later, sirens split the night. Karen put on an Oscar-worthy performance. There's a fire. There are chemicals. It's an emergency. The fire chief sized up my steel doors, nodded grimly, and brought out the K-12 saw. This was it. The trap was set. But just as they started to cut, 2 men in suits pulled up. One flashed a badge from the state attorney's office. "We have a warrant for financial records relating to Henderson Construction." Karen's face went white. Then the second man stepped up, county code enforcement. "We received a tip about the gazebo's safety. Chief, mind checking it out while you're here?" The firefighters jogged over, kicked one of the beams, and a rotten chunk of wood dropped out. "This thing's a death trap," someone announced. Neighbors gasped. Kids played under that gazebo every day. Now the fire crew went back to my shop and cut the door out clean, officially turning my fortress into a crime scene. Karen was frozen, watching her entire kingdom unravel in real time. When I came home, fishing rod in hand, acting like I'd just won a weekend with no cell service, the street was packed. Reporters, neighbors, HOA, board members, 2 insurance guys, and Karen. She looked 10 years older. I handed a folder to the insurance folks, full video coverage of everything all 10 days. Decide who's paying for what. My repair quote's in there. To the board, I said, time for a new president. They couldn't even look me in the eye. Karen got the last document, a notarized apology, and a check to Luke for every penny of fines she'd ever taken with interest. She signed. She cried. I felt nothing. The tow truck hauled her Lexus out into the sunlight. The whole block cheered. Karen was impeached the same day, charged a week later, moved out within the month. Our next HOA meeting passed the Luke addendum protecting lawn art he celebrated with a gnome on a motorcycle. As for my shop, I had new doors installed. Industrial-grade zombie-proof. That weekend, I built a new brace for Mike's leg, and for the first time in weeks, my sanctuary felt like mine again. Funny thing, you go through hell to defend your little corner, and in the end, you realize you weren't just fighting for yourself, you were fighting for everyone who ever wanted to be left in peace. Luke wandered over, handed me a cold beer, and said, I still don't really get what happened, Jake, but I know one thing, nobody's messing with you again. I grinned. It's simple, Luke. She parked in the wrong spot. You know, sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the quiet click of a lock, the whir of a camera, the scratch of a pen on an apology. Sometimes it's knowing you did what you had to do to protect what's yours, and that's enough. But let me ask you, where's the line between standing your ground and going too far? Would you have done the same in my shoes? Or would you have walked away? Tell me your story, your line in the sand. I want to hear how you see justice. Or maybe, just maybe, where you draw the line. Drop your thoughts or your own neighborhood horror stories in the comments. I'm ready for anything.